Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Good day to you, our loyal viewers, and all of you who are joining us for the first time. We say welcome to Leadership Podcast. Today is Monday, and we are discussing the national economy segment of Money Radio. And the topic we're discussing today is an interesting one: how the private sector's contributions can revamp Nigeria's economy. How the private sector's contributions can revamp the Nigerian economy. Right now, Nigeria's economy is worth 450 billion dollars. With this new plan or this new program, it is supposed to go up between 2021 and 2025. We are talking about 840, no, not 840, yes, $848 billion instead of $450 billion. That is almost double. That means we're talking about doubling the country's GDP in the next 4 years. So that's the issue we're going to discuss. And with me in the studio is our usual and beautiful face, Mr. Anthony Uko. Mr. You're welcome.
Thank you.
And that your weekend was a beautiful one.
Of course, it was. Good to be here.
Next time I will join you for the weekend at least, so I will come and chop some of those beautiful food that you cook from the south area of the country. My name is Keith Harmon. I'm your host. So, sir, this is an ambitious plan. It's something that is succeeding the economic, sequel to COVID-19. We had the Economic Recovery Growth Plan, the ERGP, and that ended around 2020.
It's going to end officially by end of this month. So from December, the new National Development Plan takes effect.
Yes, that national development, not this program, National Development Program that takes effect now. Now, how is this going to happen? We're talking about 14.7% of that 348.7 trillion. 300, I repeat, 348.7 trillion.
Yeah.
298 trillion of that is supposed to come from the private sector, whereas just about 29 to 31 is supposed to come from the public sector. How is that going to happen?
Yeah, like you pointed out, is a very ambitious order. But many analysts, many economists have looked at it, and they feel that it's something that is possible. Don't forget, we're not looking at achieving this. The government is not looking at achieving this in just 1 year. It's between now and 2025, which is let's say roughly 4 years.
4 years.
It's 4 years, not actually 5 years.
It's 4 years.
So in the next 4 years. So it's there's time if the plan is followed followed very well. There is all possibility that it's achievable. Even if everything it's not achieved on point to the exact amount they have stipulated, with concerted efforts both by government and then the private sector, whose the bulk of the responsibility lies on this time around, there's every possibility that can happen.
You know what I like about this plan, National Development Plan? Nigeria achieved much in the 70s and the 80s because there were national development plans.
Yes.
And we see that national development plans worked or have worked in other climes.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's because when you have a plan, a development plan, whether that government that initiated that plan is in power or not, because of that plan being a plan, a national development plan, is supposed to be followed by every succeeding government.
Yes, you just hit the main point which I was going to come to. You know, one thing here in Nigeria, one of the issues we've been having is the issue of having successive governments
Yes.
follow up with the plan of their predecessors. What we normally have is that the moment there's a change of power in place, the next government comes in and kicks whatever it was that the previous government did.
Politicizing
Yes,
everything.
yes. It's even worse if the government that comes in, the succeeding government, is not the same party. But even where it were the same party, we still see this happening over and over again. The new government comes in and they set aside every plan that had gotten to a certain level of delivery in the previous administration, and then start something completely new, and in the process derailing every benefit that had been accrued from the previous plan. So that is the main issue that will be a major determinant whether this national development program that the federal government has come up with at this point would actually be achieved, having at the back of our minds that by 2023 the current administration would no longer be in place.
Yeah, that lack of plan, which has been in, which has been from the practice, the negative practice. Some people claim it started around the era of the former military head of state, General Ibrahim Babangida. And since then, according to claims of some economists, there hasn't been any development plan. But you know that kind of thing, when you have no development plan, or when you have succeeding governments not following up with the plan of the previous government or the
Yes.
projects of previous government, what it does is it wastes taxpayers' money. Yes, it renders taxpayers' money useless. Take for example, there are projects that have remained white elephant up to today that we are speaking, that were supposed to revamp this economy a long time ago and get us somewhere different. You know, we see where we are, and some of those projects include Mambila power plant, Ajaokuta steel rolling plant. Uh, can I name them? There are just too many. There are just too many. And when we have a national development plan like this, then we can see that it's supposed to be followed, and it is followed. Now,
Yes, like you pointed out, you know, development plans like what we have now, they are not how will I put it, law. So
yes,
that
that's
is
true.
also an issue, because where something is passed as a law, it means that
It's binding.
it's binding
Yes.
on both the present administration and then
And the
the
past.
incoming
Yeah.
and then the incoming one
Yeah.
after that. So I, for one, think that going forward, if Nigeria really wants to see an era of steady development, of having successive governments follow up on the plans that are on ground, there is going to be much more concerted effort than coming up with a plan or a program that is not backed by law, whereby the next incoming government can just do away with it and there are no consequences. Nobody calls them to order, if I
Yeah.
can put it like that.
I remember in Lagos State recently, not more than 6 years ago, a government which was in power, it was the same party that succeeded that government or that governor. It's just that that governor term is a 2-year term
Yeah.
or a two-term tenure.
Two tenure of it,
Yes,
4 years.
yes. ended. The guy who succeeded him, literally, and I say literally, I'm not talking about symbolically or whatever, I'm saying literally, his BRT lanes were well paved, they were no bumps,
Yes.
but he decided to scrape off the tar
Mm.
on those BRT lanes and put something new. I don't know what was the intention, but you could see clearly that that was waste. There was no need for putting interlocking ties on, or not interlocking ties, but blocks,
Okay.
those interlocking blocks
Love.
on the already tired. When there were other places that were crying for attention.
Attention.
Yes, that kind of thing. So now let's look at what this plan is all about. The finance minister, Dr. Zainab, remind me, yeah, Zainab Ahmed. She listed five structured clusters that this national development plan is going to cover. She lists economic growth and development, infrastructure, public administration, human capital development, and then social development and regional development. Now, let's take each of these one by one. We'll take a short break. We'll come back. We'll take each of these one by one. How is this plan going to impact all of this? And then we'll wrap up everything. Let's take a short break.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
You're welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. In the studio with me is our beautiful Mr. Anthony Uko, and I'm your host, Case Hammond, and we are talking about how private sector's contributions can revamp Nigeria's economy. Now, the Honorable Minister Zainab Ahmed, Dr. Zainab Ahmed, said this national development program is structured along 6 clusters. She named number 1, economic growth and development. She named infrastructure. She named public administration. She named human capital development and social development, as well as regional development, social and regional development. Yeah. So let's take this one by one. Economic growth and development. The last time Nigeria experienced growth more than, well, growth up to 7% was during the, I'll call it oil boom, the oil boom of the late that was around 2008, 2009, up to 2014, when growth was actually around 7.2%. Yes, and we know that it was based on oil. The price of oil has actually dropped, and since then, Nigeria has all since then, and Nigeria has hovered around growth of 1.8, 1.2, and sometimes, in fact, they had yes. Uh, Sometimes we have even fallen back into the negative. We have had two recessions since then. With that, the ambition there is that the economy should grow by up to 5% as economic growth and development. Up to 5%. How is that going to be achieved?
Yes, already we've started seeing this playing out even before this National Development Program
Yeah.
takes effect. We saw the last quarter that the GDP grew by 5%,
Yes.
coming out from a negative
Yes.
into
A minute positive.
minute positive.
Yeah.
And also in the third quarter, we also saw the GDP growing by 4.03%. So though not up to 5%, but very
Yes, it's close to 5%.
yes, quite good if that 5% is the benchmark. So I believe that going forward with recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic coming up more, taking on more and more,
Yeah.
we are likely to see this growth coming on more as more economic activities continue.
But some will argue that it's just an economic rebound from a pandemic which took us to negative.
Yes.
But if we can see this sustained over a period, that would be good. At least that would be realizing this ambition.
Yes, you know the good thing about this the plan is that the bulk of the responsibility in terms of financing
Yeah.
lies with
The private
the
sector.
private sector. And the private sector, one thing that you will give to them is that they take business
Seriously.
seriously.
Yeah.
So for them, they will see this as a means of making profitable income. So it is now left for government to be able to put in place the necessary policies
Yes.
that
To
will
encourage the private sector.
encourage the private sector to go all out and get the resources that is required to put this plan in place. And once
That will require
once-
non-interference in a number of areas that we could consider profitable. And now, those areas, which areas do we look at? And because some of what the private sector complains about mainly inconsistency in policy.
Of course, that is yeah, that's something we've already acted on. And most times, this inconsistency, even though we see it within the same administration,
Yes.
but it happens more often than not when there's a change in power. So, like we're saying, this administration is more or less on its final legs, to
Yeah.
winding down.
Yeah.
So then, what happens? Are we going to? Is the private sector still going to have the same the same policies that were on ground when this administration was in place, so that whatever investment they would have undertaken in order to fulfill this their own end of the bargain, they can continue like that? Or are there going to be policy somersaults that will put the funds they must have more likely borrowed
Yeah.
in jeopardy?
Because-
And so at that point, the private sector will now be would want to sit back and see how things plays out, especially in line with this transition
You got a
that we are
point.
going to see. So
Yeah.
that is one of the worries which if government can find a way of addressing,
Another
Go
complaint
down.
that the private sector makes is actually have to get the exchange rates, actually have to
Yes.
get their hard currency. But I'm talking about foreign direct
Yes.
investment. So that is another issue. Let's hope that with the coming on, the hope that Dangote Refinery will come on board next year,
Mhm.
first or second quarter next year, and Nigeria's 40% hard currency, foreign currency,
Foreign
especially
currency
dollar,
yeah.
will be saved from the
Mhm.
importation of uh, petroleum
For-
products,
yeah.
and that besides buying from outside and
Mm.
saving that money, there will be enough at least to invest. And let's hope that the subsidy regime will be taken out. Either subsidy regime will be taken out, or government will subsidize production, which is sell to Dangote at lower price, and then tries to subsidize production instead of consumption.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's actually the rich people that benefit more from this consumption. We haven't finished. We go to infrastructure. The honorable minister says this thing is going to be structured along the cluster of infrastructure also. You agree with me that Nigeria has a huge infrastructure deficit. Yes. You go to transportation, you go to electricity, you go to just name it. There's a huge infrastructure deficit. There are many places in the country right now that you can hardly transport goods, especially perishable goods. Look at this Mokwa Lambata, Bida, Geda Road. It's actually impossible, virtually impossible, that we had a strike action there the other day from truck drivers. So goods coming from the north, especially perishable agricultural goods coming from the north, usually get spoiled on that road, and that is contributing to inflation. You agree with me? So infrastructure, how is this going? How is the private sector going to come in? It's the same issue whereas you have public-private
Private
partnership.
partnership. Yeah, that is. We've had a number of them that I've seen are really not worked out so well. We've had,
Lagos State succeeded in a
yeah,
way,
yeah,
and the Lagos State's model, in fact, was praised by the World Bank as being one of the best in the world. So maybe the federal government can uh, learn from
Learn.
Lagos State in that direction. Now, we would want to talk about public administration. Public administration. We're talking about politicians, isn't that so? And civil servants. There has been this claim that if you want to look at the most corrupt people in the country, don't look at the politicians, look at civil servants. How is this going to play out?
yeah, but well, when
I'm not the one saying it. You are going to
I'm
comment
not-
about it.
when the federal government actually says that it's going to buy the bulk of the up to 5% of the success of this program lies on the private sector, and then is bringing in public administration. I don't know what it wants the public sector, the private sector
To have to do with it.
to influence a change. in the-
I guess, you know, like we talk about corruption in the civil service,
yeah.
there have been claims that in promoting this issue of corruption
Mm.
or in enjoying it, in basking in it, civil servants actually create artificial administrative bottlenecks, and that is unnecessary bureaucracy that will make the private sector want to get maybe some documents from the public sector and from the private, yeah, from the public sector. And those documents may remain in one office or on one desk and the other for months upon months. These people need to change their attitude.
Yes, that is in the purview of the private sector to do something about it. Public office holders, and I guess maybe the punitive measures are not being, they are not beaming their satellites enough.
Or they
on
they they they
them.
they, 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 they turn a blind
Yeah,
blind
they
eye.
turn it
Not that they
blind
don't know.
eyes, and so as a result of that, the private sector, they are very, very worried
Where yes.
when it comes to doing business with government.
Yes. Yes.
So
And I would like to say, say, from reports, I'm talking about international reports, East African countries are doing better than West African countries when it comes to this issue of bureaucracy and public maladministration. They are doing better. We need to remove some of their good examples. So, two more quickly. Human capital development. Do we need more training in Nigeria and more skills?
of course, there's the issue. It's been said that many of the graduates that are churned out of Nigeria's universities these days, they are really not employable.
Yeah.
And that's because a lot of their training is based uh, on they are not having hands-on training
Training.
skills.
Yeah.
The curriculum is still so much theoretical,
Yeah.
and so there's need to develop capacity in that regard. Though the private sector has been doing very well in that
Yeah. Especially when it
aspect.
comes to IT
Yes,
skills.
yes,
Yeah, they
IT
have been
skills,
doing well.
and they've been doing well, and they've been pumping a lot of money into that segment. So it's for them to continue it and then upscale it
Yeah. You have a
to
point.
upscale it to other more critical areas
Yeah.
that will benefit the general economy.
You have a point. Lastly, let's talk about social development and then regional development. I Let's talk about regional development first before we talk about social development. Regional development. Are there some areas in this country that have that? Okay, is development in the regions lopsided? Do you see any area that needs development or that needs catch up from from catch up with with other areas or other regions of the country?
Yeah, I think if we're going to look at it that way, I would say because of so much insecurity that's gone in the north,
Yes.
a lot of development in that area of the country has been kind of
Stalled.
stalled.
Yeah.
So that region of the country needs to come up,
Yeah.
and then um, you know the the state governments need to have a buy-in um, on this program,
Yeah.
because you see, when the state governments have a buy-in into it, it will make the development more
Widespread.
widespread.
Lastly,
Just-
before we go and say, I would like to make a point which you inspired. You made me to think about it. This country would have been much richer if it were not because of some cultural issues that keep our women in the kitchen or in the backyard instead of contributing to.
And how am I inspiring that?
You made a point that some cultural. You made a point just now that reminded me actually. You may not know, but you made that point. So there are many women out there that have potential skills that are just kept because of culture or religion, kept in the background, in their bedroom, or the other room, or maybe the kitchen, whichever area. But Nigeria needs to make use of her female population also. This female population is a huge one. About from the last census, which is the 2006 census headed by Makama, that census says 49% of Nigerians are women. And with 49% being women, you can see that it's about half of the population that is actually, especially in certain parts of the country, that needs to catch up in developing skills and other aspects.
See,
We need more productivity.
Yes, I would like to let you know that if we're talking in terms of how many women are engaged in economic activities, you'll be surprised to know that much more women than you think.
Yes, but
engaged.
not optimal. Not optimal.
Yes, that is. The private sector has been anchoring and having a management that is at least 30% female, as in at the top management in the boards.
That is by force, and we
Yes,
know that this thing is
of
lopsided.
course.
I'm talking
So
about that women education or skills development spreading across the country, not from certain parts of the country. I'm talking about spreading across the country.
Of course, we already have many women, in fact, venturing into areas that were considered the males, the prerogative of the male.
I can challenge you, not as many as the country needs to.
Of course, the thing there is having more of them being.
That is the point. And
being in managerial positions.
No, not just managerial positions. With each skill up, with each person having improved skills, it brings in more productivity and it adds to the GDP of the country.
Well, thank God.
That's the point.
You are a male, so send that to your male folks.
No, you should join me. That's the much we can take today on National Economy segment of Morning Radio. It's been a nice time. I have my dependable guest here, in-house guest analyst, Mr. Anthony Uko. Thanks for being with us. Thanks to you, our production team. I've been your host, Keith Hammond. I want to say thank you very much for being our loyal followers. And for all of you who are just joining us for the first time, we say you're welcome to Money Radio, and you have much to gain by tuning in and listening to the analysis that go on here. Until then, stay safe, still blessed. COVID-19 is real. Have a nice day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.